people? How's it going? I want to talk quickly about inking. Let's get one thing straight. For most of us out there, inking is a real pain in the ass. And there's multiple factors. Even I still think it's a real pain in the ass, and I wish I'd never have to do it. But eventually, you're going to have to do it. So, why is inking that much of a pain in the ass? Couple of things. Inking on its own is its own form of drawing. And that is something that you kind of need to understand. And it's quite hard to understand. Hell, even after reading, rereading, and practicing the techniques in that book called How to Draw the Marvel Way, because it has some really good techniques, I still don't fully get it. And it's quite simple. Mostly because most of the times when I personally ink, I consider it passing it over my previous line. But this is, to a certain degree, not the right thing or not the right mindset. When it comes to inking, you gotta consider drawing with your ink and kind of like improving on your drawing, if you know what I mean. Not just retake the lines and then see if it all works from there. And that is quite difficult because it's completely switching your mindset to um, kind of like drawing with the ink. And hell, I can admit I have a heckload of problems with that. It's not as easy as I'd think or I'd want it to be, and there's like a good amount of techniques to it, including line weight, which I'm still trying to lower down. I do like big line weight, but there are cases or many cases where it's not really gonna work with the coloring I want to do. So especially nowadays, I tend to or I try to use smaller, thinner line weight because I want to color in a specific way that won't conflict or that will usually conflict with bigger lines. So when it comes to inking in general, you've got to get that kind of weird mindset where you're still drawing, you're adding stuff to the drawing, you're refining the drawing with your ink, which means you will add extra stuff to your original drawing, and that's all fine. You are not breaking the drawing. You're basically adding to it and kind of like sensing more things with your ink, if you know what I mean. It's the weirdest thing to say, but believe me, it'll it'll make sense after a while. But yes, that seems to be the biggest difficulty I'm having as well. Just considering it as continuing the drawing and also understanding how I can reflect certain elements. When I mean elements, I mean uh, that same thing I was talking about when I talk about feeling the drawing. Yes, you've got to feel with the inks now, and it's a for me it's a hit or miss. Like I always try to take reference from better inkers out there, some of the old school and some of the new school as well, just to check out their techniques. How do they represent certain textures with their inks? How do they make that work? How do they make it work with the coloring? Because some inking doesn't really work well with depending on the coloring technique, of course. And for that, it's all about trial and error and not being afraid to mess up, or in lack of better term, to fuck off, or to fuck up. One of those. But it's that trial and error part that gets to be a cringe for multiple people because and hell I still don't blame you. I'm still getting that issue because from to do trial and error you got to have time, and depending on what you need to do and your current state, like right now I have a convention. I barely have time to do trial and error or experiment. I got to get few a certain amount of work done, so I can't really experiment as much as before. And even in this whole race for the portfolio thing, I still have less and less time to do experiments. But I need to make time for that because I can learn some awesome, cool new tricks. Like hell, just trying to do eyelashes. There's the feathering brush technique. Like when you're, I'm not sure feathering would work, but hey, let's try it out. Like somewhat. And okay, also when it comes to inking, if you want if you want to improve a lot, or if you want to improve and it's the same message. You gotta practice, and at this point, get yourself a brush pen. Get yourself some small micron pens. Pentel brush pen is good practice. Kuretake is more expensive, but if you have experience with brush pens, then you will love it. So get those physical, traditional tools so that you can practice while you're outside. Practice well. Okay, you did a little sketch. You don't really like the sketch. Okay, how can you enhance it with your brush? Because, hey, again, it's just adding more stuff to your drawing, like understanding your drawing even more, or pulling out textures even further. So, even if your sketch is bad or you think it's bad, because, we're really critical about our own work all the time. Okay, well, take one of those old shitty sketch from your old sketchbook that you haven't touched in 4 months, you know, next to your stack of sketchbooks, and see how you can, improve it with some brush tricks. Uh, See how you can just feel it a bit more, I guess. And then, okay, if you're satisfied with the inking that you did with that old sketch and how you've made it better than you considered it, well, let's see how you can color it. How experiment with some coloring. It's all about trial and error. And hey, I had this one phase where I fought just trying to do quick sketches and then trying to ink them would work, and at times it just didn't give me the results I wanted, and it felt like I was just forcing myself to do like bad sketches to make it work. And reflecting back upon that, just don't run that way. And when I mean bad sketch, I mean sketch that aren't fully completed. They're not fully fleshed out in a sense. Sometimes you'll get that reaction from a sketch you completely do not feel. That happens. But the point is, don't force yourself to do quote unquote setups, because you'll be in this weird mindset where, okay, well, I'm only doing this sketch to ink it. And sometimes you'll miss out on some interesting opportunities of going through with the entire sketch. Right now, when it comes to digital inking, as you see, use and abuse of that undo button. You'll get it. Use and abuse of that button. Um, it's less strict, but at least you're able to take back your lines and also experiment with new lines. So sometimes you'll see a line, okay, maybe I can continue it. How does it work? If you've tried many times continuing it and it doesn't work, okay, can I shave off a part of it? Is it too thick on one end? And I'm pretty sure this is way too thick. So at this point, might as well just tone it down. This could kind of work. And there you go. And then figure out, okay, well, how do I connect one line to another? Can I erase this part? Like there's a different metagame because it's less strict when it comes to digital, but at the same time, you also, you want to practice your traditional and digital. With digital, you do get more freedom, I'll admit. And hey, freedom is what you want. Yet there are advantages to practicing traditionally, especially when it comes to figuring out techniques that you can use on both mediums. Like feathering, love to do it with a brush pen, and then at one point I just tried to integrate it with this and saw some interesting results, you know? So, hell, try it out. Even though I would recommend, just when it comes to inking, I'd rather do it with a Cintiq or a tablet PC, which, Microsoft graciously made for 1 year. Yet, if you're not fortunate enough, then hey, do like I do. You have an Intuos, you have a Graphire, you have a Bamboo, just run with it. In the end, you'll figure out which line you want and you'll keep it or scrap it. It all depends what you want and how you feel about the drawing, and also how the drawing feels to you. So, get some references from artists that you like, because yeah, you'll pick and choose what you want from them in a sense, or what you like about their techniques. And especially when it comes to inking, you have a library of great artists out there that you can learn and just kind of like assimilate a few tricks without trying to be exactly like them. That's never the objective of references and having favorite artists. You just want to pick and choose what you can add to your style and then see what you can work off it, or else you're going to go into this whole rampant thing of just getting more and more references, and eventually you're just not going to get anywhere because you're too busy getting those references and not using them, or just trying to be like the artist exactly. But you've got to have your own flavor, and for inking, that can be very cool. Very, very cool. Even though inking is not always necessary, and this is the part where I kind of want to figure out methods of just adding color directly to my traditional sketch, but having the results I want, or hell, just figuring out I can't get it. What other experiments can I do that way? Because, hey, it's not a fixed thing, you know? If you don't like inking, you're not always forced to do it. It just depends what you want to get in the end. So, let's say when it comes to illustration, commercial illustrations, many times you're going to have to ink. When it comes to comic books, multiple cases of you inking, especially if you want to add color. But if you do find that technique where you can add your sketch in and basically the color won't, how do I say this? The color won't kind of ruin it, or the color won't make it pasty. It's a tad bit difficult to say, but you guys know what I mean, right? There's certain traditional sketches with colors where it just doesn't look right. Um, so if you find those other techniques, man, just share them and use them, and then save yourself from inking. But if you absolutely need to know how to ink, then you gotta suck it up and ink, 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 and not be discouraged, because eventually you'll get it. You'll find your technique and you'll just run with it, and it'll be fun and you'll love it. So that's all I can really say when it comes to inking. I personally do not like inking, but I'm still just going through with it, figuring out things, and hey, sometimes I'll figure out some interesting techniques. Sometimes not. Sometimes I'll actually hate the thing. But then I go up to the coloring, and maybe the eye is gonna go, huh, okay, well, maybe it's not that bad. The inking kind of works. So, find your threshold, practice, and then do stuff. All right, I'm out. That's it for inking. If you have any comments, things to share, pop it in the comment section. If you want to be a douche, get the fuck out. I'm joking. But still, yeah, if you have comments, interesting discoveries, experience, and all sorts of things, then yo, pop it in the comment section. In the meantime, I'm out. And also, what is this for? This looks like an extra stage character. But what could it be? Oh, I forgot to feather the other place. Alright, I'm out of here. Later, guys.